You're scrolling through a sea of mini PCs, wondering if any of them can actually replace a bulky tower without turning your desk into a heatsink. The fear of splurging on something that looks cool but ends up choking on a game or a render is real, especially when you've got limited space and a budget that won't stretch to a full-size workstation. I felt that same hesitation, so I dug into the specs, read the handful of reviews that are out there, and even tried to imagine how the machine would sit in a typical home office or a cramped gaming nook. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The MINISFORUM MS01 Mini Workstation packs an Intel Core i5-12600H, 32GB of DDR5 RAM and a 1TB M.2 SSD into a chassis that's just under 8 inches square and 2 inches tall. On paper it reads like a power-dense desktop, but what does that translate to when you fire up a game, pull up a video editing timeline, or need reliable networking for a home office Zoom marathon? Let's start with the use case that most people care about: gaming. The i5-12600H is a 12-core hybrid processor that can handle modern titles quite well, especially when you pair it with the integrated Intel SE graphics. That means you're looking at smooth frame rates in esports titles like Valorant, Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, and Fortnite at 1080p with medium settings. I ran a quick mental benchmark. Think of the same processor in a laptop that routinely hits 120 frames per second in those games, and the mini PC mirrors that performance because it has the same thermal envelope, just in a tighter box. If you're a casual gamer who doesn't need ultra ray tracing or 4K gaming, this machine will feel snappy and won't force you to downgrade below what you're comfortable with. Now, what about someone who's editing video or doing 3D renders? The 32GB of DDR5 memory gives you a lot of headroom for large timelines, multi-track audio, and hefty Photoshop files. The 1TB SSD is fast enough for a smooth editing workflow, and you won't be waiting for assets to load the way you would on a conventional HDD. The real advantage shows up when you need multiple monitors. The MS01 offers one HDMI 2.0 port capable of 4K at 60 Hz and two USB 4/Thunderbolt compatible ports that can double as DisplayPort outputs with the right adapters. I can picture a dual monitor setup for a streamer, one screen for the game, the other for chat, alerts and the OBS interface. All of that fits on a desk that barely has room for a lamp. Connectivity is another area where the Mini shines. It comes with two 10 gigabits Ethernet ports, one standard RJ45 and one SFP plus 4 fiber or direct attach cable. If you're in an apartment complex where the internet is delivered over a high-speed Ethernet line, you can plug straight in and get the full bandwidth without a dongle. Add Wi-Fi 6E and you've got a wireless link that can keep up with a 2.5 gigabits per second router. For a home office professional who does large file transfers, video calls, or needs a stable VPN tunnel, those ports remove a lot of the network bottleneck anxiety that often trips up smaller PCs. Let's talk about the downsides. First, there's no dedicated GPU slot. The integrated SE graphics are fine for the games I mentioned, but they won't push 4K titles like Cyberpunk 2077 or handle GPU-heavy workloads such as deep learning inference. If you're a hardcore AAA gamer or a professional 3D artist who relies on CUDA cores, you'll feel that limitation quickly. Second, the compact chassis means the cooling solution is passive-heavy. It uses a single fan and a heat pipe that runs across the board. In a warm room or during long rendering sessions, you might notice the fan ramp up to a higher pitch. It's not a showstopper, but it's something to keep in mind if you plan on pushing the CPU to its limits for hours on end. Third, while the storage is generous, it's soldered to the board in a way that makes upgrades a bit fiddly. Adding a second SSD would require opening the case and working with a tiny M.2 slot that's not as accessible as a desktop's drive bays. Who should actually buy this mini workstation? If you live in a small apartment, have a desk that's already crowded with a laptop, a monitor, and a lamp, the MS01 is an elegant way to add desktop-class horsepower without taking over the whole room. It's perfect for streamers who need a dedicated encoding machine separate from their gaming rig, for content creators who edit on the go, and for office workers who want a powerful, low-profile machine that can handle multiple monitors and high-speed networking. It also appeals to people who love the aesthetic of a clean desk, no bulky tower, no tangled cables, just a sleek box that blends into the background. Who should skip it? If your primary goal is to run the latest AAA releases at ultra settings, or if you need a machine that can be upgraded with a high-end GPU later,